Protein, what does it do with insulin? One thing we do know is that carbohydrates raise your insulin the most. Fats, not so much. Protein does, but it's to a good benefit, right? We need to fuel our muscles. We need to fuel our good organs. Like, we need to give our body amino acids. And so we need to have some levels of insulin being produced by protein. And if you look at protein, protein is the building block of life. You could imagine it like little bricks or Lego, the Lego pieces that make up this brick wall. And it's not just for muscle, right? Our bones, our heart, liver, lungs, kidney, hair, brain, skin, everything. And all of that depend on amino acids from protein for optimal health and metabolic function. So if there are 20 amino acids, and 8 of them are essential amino acids that we have to get from our diet. Essential means that we cannot get it, our body cannot produce it, and that we need to get it from our diet. So we need to make sure that our diet has adequate sources of these Lego blocks of amino acids. And so what happens is, when we don't get enough of these amino acids, we can start to develop a deficiency. This brick wall that you see here starts to break down, and it can affect your immune system, and it can affect your metabolism. You end up developing some metabolic dysfunction. And so how does it impact in terms of, our weight? Protein actually is one of the most important macronutrients for weight loss. When we lose weight, we have to also understand that we're losing more than just fat. We can be losing muscle, bone, water. And so this meta-analysis that you see here, a little screenshot of this, is basically a study that looked at all the weight loss and protein, weight loss according to protein intake, and what it showed was that when you eat a diet that's higher in protein, you get a greater percentage of weight loss as fat mass, okay? So you lose more fat than muscle or bone. So we want to build our meals around protein. Protein should be the majority of your plate, okay? And I'm gonna tell you 3 reasons why you want to increase protein in your diet. First reason, it keeps you full. There is no way that you can overconsume protein. Once you start eating, a big steak or, a lot of chicken, and I'm not a chicken or steak eater, but if I'm eating a big bowl of tofu, I can only eat a certain amount of tofu before I'm like, oh, I'm so full, I can't eat anymore. And the reason is because of something called the protein leverage hypothesis. So basically, this is a concept that shows that if you don't have enough protein in your diet, okay, you can actually overconsume your calorie intake or increase your intake of carbohydrates and fats to compensate for that until you meet your daily requirements. But when we start to focus on increasing our protein, we are less likely to eat more carbs, and we're less likely to eat more fat. So it actually helps us maintain a healthy weight and increase that satiety in our body. So if there's one macronutrient that you want to count, you should count your protein. The second reason is protein actually has a thermic effect in your body. So what is a thermic effect? So the calories in the food that you eat, they're used to not just digest, absorb, metabolize, and store the food, but some of it is burned off. It's not always calories in, calories out. It's some of that gets lost as heat, right? So we're burning off some of that energy. And one of the foods that burns off the most energy is protein. 30% of it gets burned up while the body metabolizes 70%. So you want to eat more of that, while carbohydrates are like 5 to 10%, or fats are only 5% of that gets burned up. So if we're eating more carbs and fats in our diet, less of it is getting wasted as heat. We're absorbing and metabolizing more of that. And so another reason why we want to prioritize protein is because it maintains the organ of longevity. And the organ of longevity is muscle. We want to maintain and build as much muscle as we can, especially as we get older, because it's the largest unit for glucose disposal. 80% of our glucose gets metabolized at the muscle. And if we have insulin resistance at the muscle, that means our body can't absorb, our body cannot make more protein, more muscle protein synthesis. It can't create more muscle. So the more muscle that we have, the better the insulin sensitivity, and muscle is stimulated only through two ways: through exercise, resistance training primarily. That's like the main way. Really, you want to push yourself through resistance training, and increasing your dietary protein. And that's also another really powerful effect of having more muscle, is that it actually helps you live longer. It has an anti-aging effect. So I don't know if all of you had a chance to check out the webinar that I did with Barbara Schumann, who's been on Balance for 28 years, but that's her at the top corner. And I like to use her picture because as someone who is 68 years old, she looks phenomenal. And the reason is because she's prioritized protein in her diet, and she prioritizes strength training in her day to ensure that she maintains adequate muscle mass. And so when we get to the later periods in our life, we want to make sure that we prioritize protein, because when you lose muscle, your cortisol levels go up, your stress levels go up, growth hormone goes down, testosterone goes down, and your insulin levels as well. So that increases your chances of broken bones, hips, knee pain. And so you want to do whatever you can to build and preserve muscle. And so, sorry, give me 1 second here. All right, so fact or myth. Most people believe that protein intake has an effect on our kidneys. And this is absolutely false. There is no evidence for this. Extensive reviews of this data have proven this fact, okay? And so all the studies that have been done on kidney function, pretty much they're saying that there is absolutely no negative function on renal function in healthy adults with increasing protein in your diet. So you really want to try to prioritize protein as much as possible. It's not going to have a negative effect in your health. And yeah, and what about proteins in general, right? Are all proteins the same? Nope, they're not. Actually, you want to make sure that you focus on complete sources of proteins. And what's considered a complete source of protein is proteins that are not the same. Sorry, proteins that are that have all the essential amino acids and are considered a complete rich food, protein-rich food. So, for example, eggs, milk, whey, casein, beef. Soy is actually considered a high-quality protein, and that too, not the processed soy. I'm talking about tofu, tempeh, edamame, those types of protein sources for vegetarians. And then it goes down as you go down this list, right? And when you get to more vegetarian sources and vegan sources of proteins, you notice that their carbohydrates start to increase. So they are not considered quality sources of protein. So you want to make sure that if you are consuming these, that you make sure you take your balance before, right? Because you want to make sure that we control those carbs as much as possible. Now, one of the reasons, so what are some protein sources that you need to focus on? So we want to focus on animal-based proteins if you can. So eggs, beef, chicken, turkey, pork, bison, fish, any of these, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, whey, these are really great high-quality sources of protein. If you're more plant-based, soy, even spirulina is considered a good source of protein. But we also have to remember that if we're wanting to maintain our needs or meet our daily requirements, we have to consider the portions as well. So one of the things that I like to do when I increase protein is to focus on whey. And the reason is because as a vegetarian, it's very difficult to find quality sources of protein without having to eat animal products. And so for me, the reason why I like to use whey is because it's high in leucine, which is known to trigger muscle protein synthesis in the body. And it has a very high amino acid score, meaning that it's very highly bioavailable. Your body actually absorbs all the protein that you're getting from the whey. And it's natural. It's found in milk. It's completely natural. And we want to focus on quality over quantity when we talk about protein in terms of whey. Whey isolates, if you imagine your body's like a fire, okay? And you want to keep that fire going. Whey isolates burn up like paper, okay? You would go through those amino acids really fast, and your body will only absorb what it needs, and anything in excess, you will just pee it out. Versus with whey concentrates and isolates, if you have a nice blend of fast and slow digesting proteins where your body can burn through it like a log. So you'll feel fuller for longer. You'll feel more satiated for longer, and you'll just feel more energized from it. So it's going to keep that fire burning for more time. And so one of the things that I like to use is Unicity Complete. You can find it in the shop. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but one of the reasons I really like it is that it has all your 100% vitamins and minerals. It has the combination of quick and slow absorbing proteins, and it has fiber in it as well, and it tastes delicious. Honestly, I've tried a lot of proteins as a trainer. I've been giving samples like crazy. I could never stand them before. I would drink them with my nose closed and try to chug it down because they were so gross, and they literally tasted like the smell of like a wet dog. It was just weird. I never liked protein shakes, but I love the taste of Complete. It's creamy and it's delicious and it tastes great. Another reason we want to prioritize protein, and if we can supplement with protein, is because protein supplementation actually increases muscle mass gain. And this was a systematic review of all the different studies on protein supplementation that show that protein does help. Protein supplementation does help you maintain and preserve muscle mass. And when we want to think about how much we need in a day, 1.6 grams per day, 1.6 grams per kilogram of your ideal body weight is optimal in terms of what you need to aim for when you want to stimulate muscle mass. And that is actually really twice the recommended allowance for every country in the world. If you look at our daily recommended intake, we are only required to have 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of our body weight, which is minimal. That's the minimal requirement to not get sick. That does not mean that that's all you need in the day. Okay, I really want to emphasize that. So we want to aim for over 0.8 grams. Always aim for more than 0.8 grams. We want our body and our metabolism to function at its highest, and we want to be able to stimulate muscle mass. So the best way to do that is to aim for 1.6 grams per kilogram of our body weight in terms of protein. So that's the goal here. We want to aim for 1 to 2 grams per kilogram of our body weight. How much do you get in a day? Really think about it. Now, a lot of people say, oh, I eat eggs. I eat 2 eggs in the morning. I'm getting enough protein. 1 egg only has about 5 or 6 grams of protein. It's not a lot. So we want to make sure that we're eating enough, and eat the whole egg, because the whole egg, including the yolk, has the protein in it. So you want to make sure that you're getting that whole egg. Don't just, try to take out the yolk because you're afraid of the fat. Don't be afraid of the fat. It's a healthy fat. And focus on increasing your protein. Another myth that I really want to cover, and I'm so sorry I really don't want to run out of time here, but I want to make sure we get this, is that consuming whey protein, unfortunately, is a huge myth that it makes women bulky. It does not make you bulky. I focused on increasing my protein intake over the years, and I aim for about 100 grams of protein a day. Ideally, I always try to aim for 100 grams of protein a day, because I know that that's going to help me maintain and preserve my lean muscle mass, and it's going to help me boost that thermic effect in my body, and it's going to help me burn off that fat. It's going to help me keep that fat mass off. And so you will not get bulky shoulders and oversized arms. Okay, ladies, I really want you to remember that. And also another myth is that proteins will cause your bones to get softer. I've heard this myth, and I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense, because proteins make up 50% of our bones in terms of its content. It's made up of collagen. It's not just calcium or a stick of chalk, okay? We need protein for optimal bone health. And last thing, a lot of people believe that whey protein is unnatural. In fact, if you've ever made, paneer or cottage cheese, that water that you see that sits on top of that is whey. It is a completely natural byproduct of cheese production. And so what happens is it goes through a dehydration and filtration process, which just filters that out. And it's a completely natural thing. So we want to make sure that we don't confuse protein supplementation as something that's like unnatural or unhealthy. It's something that you can use to help, supplement your diet.